Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Tricycle's fourth meditation group. I'm James Shaheen, Tricycle's editor-in-chief. If this is your first time joining us, our weekly meditation group is a new offering for subscribers. I'm here today with Sharon Salzberg, who will be leading the meditation, followed by a Q&A this week. I'd like to say again that this is a bit of an experiment, and your feedback will help us determine the frequency and format of future meditations. So please write us at feedback@tricycle.org with suggestions. I should also mention that we will send you a survey shortly, and you can give us your feedback that way. A few notes before we begin. Today we're in a Zoom meeting, so participant video is on. We have disabled your microphones for now, but we will make this function available for the Q&A at the end of the session. The Q&A will take place after the meditation. So Sharon is the co-founder of the Insight Meditation Society in Barre, Massachusetts, and a best-selling author. Her latest book, Real Life, The Journey from Isolation to Openness and Freedom, is now out in paperback. This is her fourth and final talk this month. We'll be back on Monday, June 3rd with Scott Tusa, a teacher in the Tibetan tradition. But I'm sure Sharon will also be back at some point. She says she will. And until then, you can learn more about her work at SharonSalzberg.com. So now I'll turn it over to Sharon. Sharon.
Hi, it's so wonderful seeing all these people from everywhere. Hello, welcome everybody. And I asked James for permission to come back sometime and lead 4 loving kindness meditations, which he granted. So, but not quite yet. So we will do some loving kindness meditation today. And I'll start with what has actually for a very long time been my favorite passage from the Buddha's teaching, from the suttas, where the Buddha said, let go or abandon that which is unwholesome, that which is unskillful. So that which is unskillful is that which causes suffering when we are entangled in it. Let go or abandon that which is unskillful. You can abandon the unskillful. If it were not possible, I would not ask you to do it. If the abandoning of the unskillful were to lead to more suffering, I would not ask you to do it. But because it leads to happiness and freedom, thus I say, abandon that which is unskillful. So I lived a very long time on that phrase. If it were not possible, I would not ask you to do it. Certainly in my earlier meditation practice, where it often didn't seem that possible, and I would remind myself, okay, the Buddha thinks you can do it. So let's just hang in there. So any mindfulness practice will help us almost like develop that letting go muscle. So when various experiences arise, various forces arise in the mind, grasping, jealousy, hatred, fear, delusion, that kind of numbness or sleepiness, sluggishness, we don't have to be so frightened by it. We don't have to freak out about it. We don't have to take it to heart. We learn how to let go. And then the passage goes on to say, cultivate the good. You can cultivate the good. If it were not possible, I would not ask you to do it. Because if cultivating the good were to lead to more suffering rather than more happiness and freedom, I would not ask you to do it. But because it leads to more happiness and freedom, thus I say, cultivate the good. And that's, of course, also a function of mindfulness practice, where we cultivate very much so qualities like balance, equanimity, presence, clarity, insight. And it's also true about loving kindness meditations, which stylistically are distinct in terms of the style, the methodology of doing the practice, although shares many of the same principles and falls squarely into this idea of cultivate the good. We can cultivate the good. If it were not possible, the Buddha would not have asked us to do it. And so that's where we begin to look at the nature of loving kindness practice. It's a practice that many people feel a little bit squeamish about. I know many of you might have a practice of loving kindness or compassion already, but I'll just go over some of the basic principles. People tend to feel squeamish because, for one thing, the cultivation of the heart of loving kindness is often confused with action. So people say, were I to develop a more loving heart, were I to have more loving kindness, does that mean I have to lend them more money? Do I have to smile and just kind of take it when they're nasty to me? Do I have to let them move back in? Do I have to not protest their actions, which I think are so harmful to others? It's some caricature picture of like the sweet, meek, mild person who's just kind of smiling vacuously, without any intensity, without any focus in terms of response, without any strength in terms of response. And it's not really like that at all. They say that if we cultivate more loving kindness, the part of our psyche, of our mind, that is most powerfully affected is motivation or intention. It's not going to determine what we do in a certain situation, but more contour why we tend to do things, why we speak, why we hold back from speaking, which is its own kind of action, why we might reach out, why we might hold back, whatever it could be. So that if, for example, we have largely been governed by fear, motivating what we do or what we say or what we hold back from doing or saying, or animosity, a sense of alienation, we will find that replaced by being motivated by a sense of connection, which is my favorite actual translation of the word metta, M-A-T-T-A, commonly translated as loving kindness. So we decide what to do based on a lot of things, not just the motivation, discernment, context, understanding what seems the most skillful response in this moment, in this situation. But our motivation can be completely transfigured. Our worldview can be completely transfigured from being so locked into self and other and us and them to having much more of what is actually realistic, a sense of we. Here we are. Doesn't mean you like everybody. Doesn't mean you like anybody, actually. Doesn't mean you're going to invite them home for dinner or anything like that. But our heart space is one of recognizing the connection that is actually there. So we do the practice of loving kindness by resting our attention on the silent repetition of certain phrases. The phrases are a way of paying attention differently. With ourselves, for example, instead of going through the list of our faults one more time, we're going to see what happens when we wish ourselves well. May I be safe, be happy, be healthy, live with ease. It's not a practice where we're trying to force a feeling or manufacture anything. It's a practice of gift giving, of offering, of blessing. And so we use the phrases to pay attention to ourselves differently. We use the phrases to pay attention to others differently, and ultimately to all beings everywhere. So I'm going to guide you through one of many variations of doing this practice. The phrases, you may, of course, have your own phrases already. That's fine. The phrases are meant to be kind of general so that we can offer them to ourselves and to most other beings we might call to mind. Maybe not absolutely everybody. Somebody may arise where it just feels imperative to change the phrases, and that's fine. But you don't want to be constantly trying to think of new phrases with new people, new beings. And so we use general phrases like, for example, beginning with ourselves, may I be safe, be happy, be healthy, live with ease. Live with ease means in the things of day-to-day life, like livelihood or family, may not be such a struggle. May I live with ease. So we gently repeat 3 or 4 phrases like that. And the skill set is very similar to what we've done already. Your mind will likely wander. You may fall asleep. You'll get lost. It's okay. When you realize that, see if you can let go and come back. In this case, come back to the phrases. Okay. So you can sit comfortably, close your eyes or not. Let your energy just settle into your body. And begin repeating loving kindness phrases for yourself. Phrases like, may I be safe, be happy, be healthy, live with ease. Remember, it's a practice of blessing, of well-wishing, of generosity of the heart. You don't have to force anything to happen. Just gather all your attention behind one phrase at a time. And then the next. I have a friend who said he thought he'd get extra credit if he said more phrases. So you should say them really fast, try to get a lot. You don't need to do that. You can repeat them with enough space and enough silence so that it's a rhythm that's pleasing to you. May I be safe, be happy, be healthy, live with ease. And remember, whenever your mind may wander, you get lost, don't worry about it. See if you can let go gently, return your attention to the phrases. See if you can call to mind a benefactor. That's someone who's helped you. Maybe they've helped you directly. Maybe they've inspired you from afar. You've never met them. The texts say this is the one when you think of them, you smile. Could be an adult, could be a child, could be a pet. Is there a being who, when you think of them, it just kind of lifts you, lifts your spirits? So if so, you can bring them here. Get an image of them or say their name to yourself. Get a feeling for their presence and offer the phrases of loving kindness to them. May you be safe, be happy, be healthy, live with ease. Even if the words aren't perfect, you're carrying the heart's energy. So they're serving us. So unless it's a struggle, you can keep using the same phrases. May you be safe, be happy, be healthy, live with ease. Let's bring in someone who you know is struggling right now, who's having a hard time right now. Bring them here, and the loving kindness takes on the flavor of compassion at this point. You can get an image of them, say their name to yourself, get a feeling for their presence, and see what happens as you offer the phrases to them. May you be safe, be happy, be healthy, live with ease, or whatever phrases you may be using. And for a few moments, let's just see who comes to mind. Individually or as a group, family, for example, coworkers, whoever it might be, and offer the phrases of loving kindness to them. May you be safe, be happy, be healthy, live with ease. And then all beings everywhere, all people, all creatures, all those in existence, near and far, known and unknown. May all beings be safe, be happy, be healthy, live with ease. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes or lift your gaze, and we'll end the meditation.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
So we'll now begin the Q&A, and we're going to do it a little bit differently this time. You can raise your Zoom hand, which you'll find at the bottom of your screen, the little hand icon. And my colleague Erin will unmute you when I call on you. So please keep your questions related to the practice, and very, very important, please keep your questions brief so others can have a turn. If you don't keep them brief, I'll very politely cut in to remind you that others are waiting. Please also note that if you ask a question, you will be in the recording. So if that really bothers you, you can also put a question in the chat. Maybe Sharon will get to it, but we'll be calling on those who raise their hands first. So I see that Margaret has a question. Margaret?
Hello, and thank you for this beautiful meditation. My question is, what is the difference between saying, may I be safe, and may I feel deep safety within me? And then the same sort of thing with the other statements. Thank you.
I think, you can really phrase it however is pleasing to you, as long as it has that element of gift giving. It's different than people often ask about an affirmation, like, I am safe, I am beautiful, I am whatever. And that's like a different kind of practice. I can't really speak to that, but this is a practice of generosity of the heart. So, and these are all translations, from the original Pali or Sanskrit anyway. And so I noticed I did intensive loving kindness practice in Burma for the first time in 1985. And I went back in 1987 and did it again. And by 87, there were other people in my group who were also doing loving kindness. And I noticed if they had a different translator on a different day, they were using different phrases, So, I mean, it's really up to you how you want to say it.
Thank you.
Okay, so Cam has a question. Cam?
Hi, I was wondering, is this a practice you can work up to, like for an hour, doing various people, or is it something where you should group people together, like for shorter periods? Or yeah.
You can certainly do it for an hour. I did it for 4 years. After I left Burma, it was my only practice for about 4 years. And then I moved to my daily sitting, because I do sit every day, was more like a mindfulness practice, but I had a resolve to do loving kindness practice whenever I was waiting, and I counted every mode of transportation as waiting. So every airplane, walking down the street, obviously silently, walking down the streets of New York, every taxi or subway, I would be doing loving kindness practice. In the classical expression of the practice, there are certain categories, not all at once, because that might feel much too crowded, but over time that we try to include. So it starts with oneself, and then a benefactor, and then a friend. So the friend sometimes is divided in two, like a friend who's doing well right now, and then a friend who's struggling right now. Okay, and then the category known as a neutral person. So a neutral person is someone we don't especially like or dislike. We just feel kind of neutral. And often we choose somebody, or we're encouraged to choose somebody that plays some role in our life. So we do see them now and then. The checkout person in the supermarket. I have a friend who chose her dry cleaner I usually say the person delivering the mail, but you might have very positive feelings about them, so, and you may not be totally neutral toward this person, but you're fairly neutral. And I find that such an interesting exercise, because here's the kind of person who we tend to objectify. We tend to look right through instead of look at, and recognize, oh, here's a person just like me who wants to be happy just like I do. And so what we're doing by offering them loving kindness is in effect looking at them. So it's ourselves, a benefactor, friend or friends, neutral person, and then someone we have some difficulty with. And here we're encouraged not to start with the person who has hurt us the most in this life, or whose behavior on the world stage in our eyes is so hideous. We make our way to them more slowly because we're also embodying and understanding, like, what could it mean to have loving kindness or compassion for this person, but not give in to their point of view? Or what can it mean? What does it feel like to have loving kindness or compassion for them and realize, I can't fix this. This is not in my hands. And so we're encouraged to make our way to the most difficult. But most people, I find, don't like that instruction. And we just want to jump right in. So whatever you do, just don't be discouraged, if it feels really hard. So ourselves, benefactor, friend, neutral person, difficult person, and then we come to groups. All those in my family, those not in my family. And then we end with all beings everywhere. So like I said, this can stretch out over a long period of time. And so what I tend to say for any given sitting, depending on how long you sit, sometimes we start with ourselves and end with all beings. And what you do in the middle can always be changing, because maybe you have a friend getting an award today, or you have a friend having surgery today, and you want to be sure to include them, or you're going to the dry cleaner and that's your neutral person, or whatever. So it kind of mix up what happens in the middle part.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, we have Nan Eisenberg. Hold on, Nan, we're going to unmute you.
I have to unmute, yeah. So I've found that these different categories have been really helpful, just working through them, and they each have their own lessons. But I particularly found that the benefactor categories have been very meaningful to me, especially John McCransky's Awakening Through Love. That really made a really big impact on me. But now that, as you can tell, I'm pretty old, a lot of these benefactors are actually dead. And so I'm kind of working like, how do I work with them? I mean, sort of trying things out, but I wonder if you have any suggestions for that, because it seems silly to, wait, may you be happy, you're not alive anymore. So just wondering about your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Well, I think, like in a place like Burma, where culturally the idea of rebirth was very much in the air. Sometimes you would use the same phrases. My microphone is shifting, so I'm shifting it. I don't know why that happened. Great, shifted back. So if you have, some sense, even if it's not specifically a belief in rebirth, but it's almost like a way of thanking that person or that being for their role in your life, you could use the same phrases. If it feels awkward, just change the phrases.
So I've been trying to, but sometimes I think like they have other followers or other people they've affected like me. So, I mean, I have been sort of experimenting with different things about that, but it sort of has been an issue for a while. So
yeah, I mean, you could actually just say thank you.
Right. Yeah, sometimes I do that, or goodwill to them or something. Gratitude is a different thing of appreciation to them.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like I said, sometimes
warmth and
just reasonably we have to change the phrases, but what you don't want is to be in a situation where you lose all concentration, because every single time you're shifting categories, you're thinking, what about you? Like You get
Right.
kind of lazy when you're happy. What about, and so it just loses the concentration when we do too much of that.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a question from Roz Evans.
Hi, Sharon. I wonder if you've got any particular guidance for loving kindness meditation. So my mind went to a friend who's struggling at the moment, and she's about to start cancer treatment. So she's got many, many months of struggles ahead of her. And I just wondered if you have any particular ideas or guidance for that kind of situation.
Well, I think, first of all, I think loving kindness practice is a beautiful thing to do because there are many instances where our own discomfort and dismay and have us turn away, in effect, and to be able to kind of hang in there and also recognize it's not up to me to fix. Would that it were, would that this world were such that, like I once said in front of this group of people, if this were my universe to fix, to repair, it would be so much better a world. And someone in the room challenged me. They said, "Are you sure?" And I thought about it and I said, I am really sure, it would be so much better. But guess what? No one's giving me that option. And so to sort of almost feel our own helplessness and at the same time to recognize our presence is the gift. And it's not a common gift because these things wear at us. Culturally, most of us have not been raised in a way where we know how to deal with pain and illness and death. And, it feels almost like a personal humiliation almost. And we just don't know what to say, what to do. And yet just our presence, our willingness to be there. It's almost one of the distinctive factors of loving kindness, that it's different than attachment. Like, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to make this whole better. But more, it is that freely given gift of the heart. I'm here. May you be happy. May you be safe. And I think it's received differently. If you've ever been in a position of being ill or having a problem of some kind, the people who give you a lot of advice compared to the people who are really there and listening to what is emerging for you. It's different.
And would you tend to stick to the same words of the
I
loving
would
kindness?
tend to, because that's the blessing, but you could rephrase it. Some of the phrases I was given in Burma through my translation were different from what we tend to use, and that would be more like, may you be free from danger, may you be free from mental suffering, may you be free from physical suffering, may you have ease of well-being, or may you live with ease. So those were the phrases I used in Burma I was there for 3 months that first time. And I had a tremendously transformative experience. And then I came back, I was teaching. I was already teaching meditation. So I started teaching loving kindness immediately and just offering those phrases because those had been my phrases. And they've been so useful for me, and it worked fine until, this is like a California joke, I apologize, but worked fine till I got to California. And then I was teaching and I offered those phrases, and it was the first sitting, and I rang the bell at the end, and I looked up and there was a line of people waiting to talk to me, to complain that they didn't like the phrases. I don't want to say danger, 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 danger. I don't want to say suffering, 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 even though it's free from suffering. And so even though those phrases were really useful for me, I know it's not good to struggle. You need phrases that are good enough, that you're not going to just be working against them. And so that's why we change them to may you be safe, be happy, be healthy, live with ease. But I kind of like my original phrases. So, and they might work really well in a situation like that.
I'll try them. Thank you.
Sharon, I'm going to try to get a few of the questions in from the write-ins in the chat. 'cause I
Yeah,
think
good.
one of them is from Lourdes. How do we keep the meta practice fresh over time? And the other one is, what exactly do you think of or see in your mind's eye as you say the phrases? Those are the two good practice questions I wanted to get in there.
Okay, so in terms of the second, they say that one of three things can be predominant at any given time. One is the phrase itself. One is the sense of the person. It could be an image or just the sense of them, or the being. I shouldn't say person because it might be a puppy. Sense of the being. And the other is whatever feeling may arise. So feelings come and go, and they are not essential to the progress of the practice, honestly. I've put in a lot of hours doing this practice, feeling nothing, thinking nothing was happening, only in life itself to realize, oh, something was happening. After all, when I encountered myself having made a mistake, how did I speak to myself? And like, oh, that's different. Or somebody I didn't like that much, or somebody I was used to ignoring, or even the benefactor who we may not have really actively felt gratitude toward in like 15 years or something, you know. So you see the changes in your life. And so the feeling I don't tend to really emphasize as trying to cultivate. The phrase is always there if you're using it. So that's a good baseline. You can always come back to the phrase. The sense of the person, of the being. So sometimes we need to sharpen it because we're just saying things by rote and it's sort of sing-songy, or it's lost its sense of meaning. So we can do that by getting a clearer sense of the person. We can do that by the kind of scenarios briefly of imagining that person happy. You don't want it to end up being too prescriptive, like, you know, what would make you happy if you had a different apartment in New York? I can help you find one. I hear rents are pretty good right now, you know, which can go on endlessly. And you lose all concentration. But you might briefly imagine, oh, yeah, that's what it would look like. And that kind of reinforces the nature of the practice. That's back to the first question. That's part of how we keep it fresh. I mean, I always hesitate to use words like keep because that's not going to happen. We lose it. You know, things become rote, they become boring. But we realize that and then we can sharpen it. That active beginning again is so crucial to understanding meditation practice of all kinds. So don't feel bad, you know, if you find that it's becoming rote, because we can correct that. That's the whole idea. We can repair, we can replenish. So sometimes we do that by having a sharper sense of the recipient. Sometimes we do that by really an effort to gather all of our attention behind one phrase at a time. Sometimes things become rote in loving kindness practice, well, in two directions. Sometimes we get kind of sluggish and sleepy, but we're repeating the phrases anyway. And so what happens there is actually good in that the phrases tend to get garbled. You know, it's a state that in meditation parlance is called sinking mind, where we're kind of calm and peaceful, but not very energized. So I have found in that state of sinking mind, if my object of awareness is the breath, I can go on for a good long time. I call it the ooze. I could go on for a good long time just oozing. But in loving kindness, because you're using phrases that mean something, the phrases tend to get garbled. So, for example, sometimes in Burma, I would hear myself repeating, may you be filled with suffering, may you be filled. And I go, no, 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 may you be free of suffering. You know, so it's a good feedback system. The other way we kind of commonly get off in loving kindness practice is the stories, because these are real beings we're calling to mind with real situations. And so if we're offering loving kindness to a homeless person, for example, it's not a composite in our imagination of that must be what a homeless life looks like. It's we know them, or we've read about them, or we've seen them, right? And that means relationship, that means complexity. So it's very easy to dive off into endless stories about somebody, like the apartment. I can help you decorate it, and you'd be a lot happier. So to really remember, this is a concentration exercise. You want to gather your attention behind just one phrase. And then the next will actually freshen it up and make it seem more alive as well.
Thank you, Sharon. We have a question from David Dunlop. David?
Hi, Sharon. Thank you for the kind and thoughtful guidance over the years. My question is, when I get to wishing well for all, I kind of lately have developed a bit of a fetish for gravity just because it feels so connective. And I'm wondering, how do you see being connected to all life and the earth that supports it?
Yeah, thank you. Like in the classical teachings, they talk about sentient beings, which would not in that version, include trees and rocks and mountains and the wind and such things. Like I always say, the more loving kindness, the better, and that if you are moved to, it's much better to include the planet, the universe, these forces that would not be normally considered sentient, in that classical way. So that's what I do, when I feel moved to.
Okay. We have Halise Yokin. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. I'm newish to this practice. Started it 7 or 8 months ago, and I have a question about today's meditation, about today's guide, and then something in general. It feels pretentious to me in some ways to ask, may I be safe? May I be healthy? May I be happy? I want to qualify it by adding the comparative. May I be safer? May I be healthier? May I be happier? I started meditation because of a very, very serious health problem. And I'm not out of the woods yet. So I think it feels very presumptuous. And the person that I was thinking of today is actually in the process of dying. And so there is no way that she can be healthier. So or even safer, or even the idea of happy, I want to say, may I be open to joy, to more joy. And so you have given this kind of license to change the words. And I just wanted to ask you about the qualifying factor, whether that dilutes the power of the meditation or not. That's my first question.
Yeah, I think it's fine, the qualifier is fine. And what I found is even using like the classical phrases I was given in Burma, they also change meaning over time. That was not a very flexible situation where they said, adjust the phrases. That was things I learned later, but and that last phrase, may I live with ease, or may I, have ease of well-being. I thought, well, that's stupid. I could get behind, may I be free of mental suffering, like that I really appreciated. But may I live with ease? I thought that's so silly. And then one day it was like something shifted inside of me, and I thought, our lives could be so complicated, so many choice points, so many decisions. Like, may I live with ease? That's a great phrase, and then I began to just see it differently. people say, may I or may you be healthy, but health means a lot of different things, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you beat your prognosis. It might, but it might not. And it might mean a healing on a whole other level. And so it's up to you whether you can use kind of more standard phrases and allow them to deepen and change meaning, or even have nuance right from the beginning, or it just feels wrong. If it feels wrong, you need to change the phrases,
Okay.
in whatever way works for you.
The second question I have, and maybe somebody else can answer this. In my meditation, when I'm finished and go through my day, I do feel a sense of more ease. But very often during the meditation, if I wander off, that doesn't bother me. I can come back to my breath. That's okay. But sometimes I have the actual physical experience of like my heart starts to beat really fast. And I just don't really understand if that's par for the course, if that's one of the experiences. I always think that I should feel even more calm, but actually sometimes during the meditation, I actually start to sweat or I feel my heart beating. And I wanted to know if anyone else has ever had that kind of experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I don't like the word common, but I think it's a natural experience. Whatever meditation practice we're doing, first of all, I don't even understand at all really all the ways in which the autonomic nervous system is being affected by the meditation, although I'm sure someone is studying it. And or has studied it. In the meditation world, they talk about underlying every different technique, and then there are so many techniques. We are basically deepening calm and peace and concentration and relaxation and strengthening energy and aliveness and wakefulness and connection. And it's not always that those two are in perfect balance. So sometimes, like the sinking mind thing I was talking about also comes when the calm, concentrated, peaceful side of things is much stronger than the energy side of things. And what you're describing is the opposite, where a lot of energy is happening, but it may not be quite grounded yet or balanced by enough calm. And that's natural,
Okay.
and it will balance out.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. And thank you, Sharon, and thank all of you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you at our next group a week from today, Monday, June 3rd at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can join from this same Zoom link. Again, this is a new offering and we would appreciate any feedback, so keep an eye out for a survey we'll be sending out shortly. And also feel free to email us with questions, comments, and suggestions at feedback@tricycle.org. Thank you again, Sharon, so much. And of course, we're going to be happy to have you back when you're ready. I know you're very busy, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.